introduction to this. If you could take a moment and introduce yourself. I am Norma Malfatti. I'm the Director for Evangelical Mission for the Upstate New York Synod, and thanks for watching this video.
I'm Dan Rumfeld, the Dean in Southwestern Conference.
And I'm Gail Wolling, the Dean in Central Crossroads.
Yeah. So thanks for being here. Thanks for asking the question. We are doing a brief video tutorial today in how to set up your own Zoom account. Our deans, all of the deans in our synod are going to be having Zoom accounts during this time that we are separated and away from one another, so that we can find and use this platform of staying connected. And we are recording this and sharing this with you because you might potentially be thinking about doing this in your own congregation so that you can stay connected with members. So I'm going to share my screen. And as soon as I find it, okay. So this is my screen. What you should see right now is Zoom's website. It is zoom, zoom.us. And you'll go right to the Zoom website. And you could either click on sign up, it's free, or pricing and plans. And that's where I'm going to go. So for pricing and plans, you would come here, and there's a couple of options. You can have a free one, and you can host up to unlimited one-on-one meetings. If it's just going to be you and another person, you can have a free account and just use that. But if you want to have a group of more than 3 people on the call, of 3 or more people on the call, that's when you need to, that's when they limit you to 40 minutes or less, which still might be what is right for you and your congregation. You might not need something for longer than an hour. But what the Synod office has, and what we are recommending all of our deans have that we're helping to make possible for them, is to have a pro account. This pro account at $14.99 a month, you can you can have one meeting going at a time, so that if you so that in a conference you couldn't have 2 congregations having a meeting or using it for worship at the same time. So like in the Synod office, we have a very tight scheduling to make sure that with all the Zoom meetings that we already do, how to not overlap one another. If you went to the next one up, it is not only $20 a month, it's $20 for a minimum of 10 people. And so that all of a sudden you've now jumped in dollar amount, which is why we just have a pro account. So you'd simply click on Buy Now. And you could choose the monthly option if you're just thinking, we're going to check this out while we're in this coronavirus pandemic quarantine stage. Or you might want to pull the trigger and just get an annual account, and that's $150 annually. So you would select that. And there are all these add-ons. We don't currently use any of those add-ons because you can use freeconferencecall.com, freeconferencecall.com for phone conferencing. And it literally is, like its name says, is free. So, and then you just go through the whole thing and you pay. You can use a PayPal account if you happen to have one of those, otherwise a credit card. And that's it. That's as easy as that. I'm going to sign into my account right now so that you can see the next thing to do. So this is I have a personal account because, and it is not the Synod's account because too many meetings have happened at the same time that I have had to have my own account so that I can keep my meetings rolling. And so this is what happens when you log into an account. We're now joined. Hi, Pastor Jonathan.
Hello, everybody.
I am recording this just so you're aware.
All right.
Because we're going to make this available so that not only for the other deans who aren't on the call, but any congregations that want to see how to quickly sign up and get a Zoom account.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So Jonathan Deibler, Pastor Jonathan Deibler, he's the dean of the Genesee Finger Lakes Conference.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, John.
So I should say I probably should have gone backwards a little bit. I'll go back to the pricing page. Did you have any questions before we moved forward?
What does it mean when it says hosts up to 100 participants in the free one?
Yeah,
It's
you
just
can
one
have
on
up
one.
to 100 people in the room. So if you were so participants is the number of people that can call in. So you can have up to 100 people call into your Zoom meeting.
Can they all be on the screen like us?
Yes and no. Yes, they will all be on the screen, but the no part is then you'll have to swipe through because there's only a limited number of little Brady boxes
Okay.
that could be on the screen at a time. So I've been on mass Zoom meetings where there's been like 50, 60 people, and you just have to scroll through. Or a lot of people then at that point opt not to share their video.
Picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but there is a time limit of 40 minutes on those group meetings. Yeah.
So if you were doing it for church and church was an hour, then you'd be limited.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep the sermon short.
Never.
Or you could
Never.
do something like you could just do an opening prayer, read scripture and a sermon.
Yeah.
You know, like when I think about what chapel looked like in seminary, we were done with chapel in about 20 minutes, except for one day a week when we celebrated Eucharist.
Mhm.
And then it was 23 minutes.
Right. No, 35 when I was in seminary anyway.
I know I had to preach at one of those, and they told me 5 minutes. If I dawdled, I could have 5.5. So I
Yeah.
had to time it so it was right on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Great. And there are some things that you can add in features, but we won't get into that. I can also tell you that Zoom is very responsive to questions, both in their little chat box or if you send them an email, because I have asked them questions before, such as, can I host more than one meeting at the same time? Yeah.
And they said no.
No. Yeah, that's what they said, was no.
Okay, well then I was following your instructions so far.
Yeah. So now we are going to, hold on one second. I'm not in my own account and wanted to make sure that I was in my personal account. Okay, here we go. So you can see that I have 2 meetings on my account right now. This is when you log into your account, you go, you're set right to your meetings. You can see we've got a Zoom Basics happening right now. And then tomorrow, Luther Memorial here in North Syracuse is going to be using my account for a worship and music meeting. If you just want to schedule a one-off meeting and you're not expecting to use this regularly, the Synod office, we are happy to help facilitate that on one of our accounts.
Okay.
But if you're looking at using this on a consistent and regular basis, that's where it gets difficult for us because we have so many meetings happening that I've signed up for my own account. Yeah. So here's how to schedule a meeting. Right here, upcoming meetings, the blue button, schedule a meeting. So I'm gonna call this. Let's see. I'm going to schedule a meeting with the Central Crossroads, right? Central Crossroads.
Ministerium.
Yeah, I would say online ministerium. And we are going to, I'm making all of this up. So if you're watching this later today, this is not true. I'm going to set it up for Wednesday morning at 9:30 in the morning. And it'll be just a 1-hour check-in. So it'll be an hour long, although you can certainly have something longer. You just press the down arrows. Ooh, you want it to be 9:30 a.m. Yeah. So one of the things that's great is that it automatically knows your time zone and it translates, generally speaking, if you send it to someone in a different time zone, it translates into their time zone in a calendar invitation, not always if you just copy and paste. Yeah. You can automatically generate the meeting ID. So that way no meeting has the same link.
Mhm.
Or you can just set a personal meeting ID and whatever you would want that to be. Right? I've known some people that have used their phone numbers as their meeting ID. But then that means that at any point in time, someone can log into a meeting. And if you're having confidential conversation, that's why it might be a good idea to keep the generate automatically. You could require a meeting password. I always uncheck that box.
Okay.
When it says video host and participant off, that means when someone logs in, their video starts as off rather than on. And then it'll invite you if you want to turn on your video. I like to do that because sometimes people like to check their hair or right in the little preview. And some people might be in a situation or position where they don't want their video shown for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to know this because any number of meetings that I have been in, every time I sign in, I encounter a different thing, whether I have to turn microphone on, camera on or off, that kind of thing. And this explains why it's not necessarily consistent.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then in the audio section, I always click both. So some people can call in using a telephone. Some people can call in using the computer audio. Probably most of you right now are using your computer audio. But occasionally people's speakers or a sound card doesn't work in their computer. And so they call in on a phone. And it also allows for people who don't have a web camera or a computer available to just call in.
Mhm.
So I always leave both. And meeting options, enable join before host. I like to click that so that if I am running late, people can start chit-chatting, waiting for me to get there. While you watching this video didn't get to see this, Dean Dan and Dean Wolling were chit-chatting when I finally got in the room. Yeah. You can also choose to mute all participants upon entry if that's something you like to do. Or you can enable a waiting room and people just have to, like the screen will say, waiting for your host to start the meeting. Yeah. So you could check all of these. You could record the meeting automatically. I don't recommend that. I recommend asking permission and letting people know when you're going to hit the record button. So that way people can get out whatever silliness they might want to get out first. And then you're also assured that everybody understands that you are recording.
I have a question.
Yes.
And you can go back to it.
Yeah.
If you wanted to record it, how do you do that?
Yes. So hold that thought. We're going to get there in a second.
Okay.
And then, so that's it. Do you have anything else about this screen that I've just shared with you?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. You'll click save. And then the next screen that it takes you to is then you can automatically add it to your Google Calendar. I do this often, and so that it'll sync right in and it'll have, here, I'll do that right now. And I sign into my own account. You have to confirm that you're going to let it do that. And then you stick it on your calendar here, and it has all of the details right here. The link is right there, as well as down in the event detail box. So oftentimes, whether I'm hosting or joining a Zoom meeting, this way I can just click on it wherever I am. I can go to my calendar and click on it. I don't have to go through the whole going into Zoom to make that happen.
Okay.
Yeah. So then we have, right, require, and then everything else here, what you want to do, if you want to invite people to it, invite attendees, you can just copy and paste this link, or you can go to the copy the invitation, and a little box pops up. And this is where you get all of those words, all of those phone numbers, all of those things happening. And they make it really easy. copy meeting invitation, it's automatically copied to your clipboard so that you can just go and cut and paste.
Okay.
Well, you don't even have to cut. You can just paste into the
Paste.
body of an email. Yeah.
So you still have to open your email listing or whatever and then paste it in and add participants that way. It's not directly through Zoom.
Correct. Yeah. But it does the good work of copying it for you.
Okay.
Yeah. And then when you're ready to do the meeting, you're just going to click. You'll log into your account. You'll come back over here. You'll see my meetings. And then I'm going to do this and you'll see what happens. I'm going to start the Central Crossroads meeting. And it goes to start the browser. And I'm going to tell it to open in Zoom meetings. Dun, dun, dun. It won't let me do it.
Right.
I usually get a box that says end other meeting.
Okay.
Oh, look, there it is. To keep this meeting running, please assign a host before you leave. So I could leave. But then when that meeting actually tries to start, it will.
I'm not seeing that consistently.
Yeah. Oh, because I think that it's in Zoom. I'm only sharing my web browser.
Okay.
I think that's what the problem is. So this is what you need to know about sharing. And you won't be able to see this on your screen, but you could go to YouTube and watch a video. When you share your screen, and if you go to the bottom of, I have to stop sharing my screen first in order for that to happen. Stop share. So if you have your mouse over the Zoom, over the videos, you see down at the bottom, that's where you find your mute, your stop video, start video. You can invite people from here. You can manage participants, and if you press on that, you'll see on a little box will pop up on the right, and it tells you everyone who's there. There's also, and then the little green thing in the middle, the share, that's where if you clicked on that, you would then share a screen, and it invites you to say, which screen do you want to share? So even if you as the presenter toggle between screens, all of us who are on the other end of the share only see the screen that you share.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that the record button?
Right. So then, no, it's not the record button.
Okay.
The box next to it, chat,
Mhm.
right? You can, if you click on that, you can also keep a chat going.
Okay.
Right. I've seen that.
Yeah.
And Synod Council meetings.
Yes, we've used that at Synod Council meetings. So sometimes people might share a link there, and then that way you can go and click the link to go to the page. Also, what people might use it for is you might invite people to be muted, but they can ask questions. And they use the chat box for questions. Tom Madden tries to use the chat box to manage who raises their hand to speak. And which means that he really doesn't want us to be, during the meeting, to be using it for side conversation. In the same way, there shouldn't be side conversation at a Synod Council meeting anyway.
Yes, but we know how well that works.
I know, but maybe. So, and then the button next to that, it should be round and maybe red. If you hover on it, that is the record button.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you also have the ability to create breakout rooms. So I could separate you into different rooms, and then you'd bring people back together. So you could do small group conversation. Yeah. And I think I'm trying to think of who I was just speaking with about this. But so Pete Royce, who is our Stewardship for All Seasons consultant, we're going to be meeting via Zoom for the first cohort for Stewardship for All Seasons, because we're living in this COVID-19 reality. And so when small group conversations are needed, he's going to use the breakout rooms so that there's just small groups of like 3-4 people. Yeah. And I've used it for book studies before to be put in breakout rooms. And with the church-wide organization, sometimes at our staff meetings, they put us into small groups. And yeah. So any questions?
How do you end the meeting?
Oh, then the very button to the right where you will say leave the meeting, where you see it leave meeting, the
Yeah.
person who is the host, that's me, I have end meeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
That ability to have breakout rooms, because in a sense you could have multiple meetings going at the same time without having to have your multiple Zoom accounts at the same time. I mean, it's small
I've never
meetings are
thought
still
about it
technical.
that way, but yeah.
yeah, sure.
Yeah. And I'm not sure. Oh, and you can manually assign up to 3 people in a room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is that difficult to do, the breakout rooms?
No, it's not at all. And in fact, I could be wrong. You might be able to break out more people, but because there's 4 people in this Zoom,
Okay.
that number might be based on the number of people in a Zoom.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
I can't make more than 3. I can't put more than 3 people in a breakout room because then we'd just be together.
We would have figured that out at some point.
Right,
So-
right. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's really easy, and it's really easy to call everybody back together.
Okay.
So depending upon, so any other questions around this, around that?
Good.
Well, thanks everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm just going to stop the recording and then we can chat for a few more minutes.
Okay.
If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself, to Michelle Josephson, who is the Director of Operations for our Synod, or to Lori Kohansky, the Assistant to the Bishop for Faith Formation. They also have very extensive use in facilitating Zoom conversations, so they can walk you through some of the more the nuances and how do you facilitate a conversation when you're in Zoom and not face-to-face versus some of these technical pieces. All right.